What is a draft strategy? What are some examples? Should we use them? How do we use them? These are all questions that we're going to answer today, but tailored to one specific strategy, and that is the robust running back strategy today. So if you enjoy high quality sports and or fantasy football content, this is the podcast and or channel for you, as we're on the road to 500 subs on the channel. And if this video helps you at all, or if you enjoyed it all we ask for is to support the channel down below as we're approaching this next big milestone. But without further ado, let's dive into the strategy. Alright, you see it on your screen now, and before we get into it, I'll let you guys read the screen, but before we get into it, it is important to note to never go into your fantasy football drafts with one set draft strategy. That no matter what, this is the strategy I'm getting. I'm drafting this position in this round. Don't do that. You have to be able to adapt and apply multiple strategies, because if you do that, you can build the best overall team for your fantasy football team going forward, right? For the season, for the long haul. But on the left side of your screen, it is the overall layout. And this is the overall premise of what you want to do with a running back heavy strategy like we have in today's video. As in the first 4 rounds, you kind of want to overload. You want to get the most star power that you can at the running back position. You're going to be drafting running back practically in your first 4 to 5 rounds. But from rounds 5 through 9, you want to stack up on your receivers, get those mid-round gems. And in rounds 10 through or from rounds 10 plus, you want to go wide receiver and tight ends only. That's the basic overall premise of the strategy, to get your running backs early and then build your depth at other positions later on. So it's kind of, it's no doubt going to give you an edge at the running back position. Wide receivers go a lot earlier this year than ever before. So running backs are going to be at a value more than ever. So use this strategy when your league mates are going wide receiver heavy and there is the best overall running back on the board at picks 5, 6, 7. You get the overall picture, right? So that is going to be the strategy for today's video. Let me know what you guys think down below, and let me know if this is a strategy that you've used in the past or if you're going to use this season. But again, it's important to note to not stick to one draft strategy. Alright, we're over here on Sleeper. Of course, my favorite draft platform as of right now. Underdog doesn't pay me. Regardless, we're over here and we're going to do a PPR format. We're going to go half PPR today because we are more tailor-made to the running backs. We're going to go 12 teams. We're going to have no time limit on the picks. And again, we're just going to set these overall settings up for you guys. We're going to do standard league, 2 running backs, 2 receivers, a tight end, quarterback, a flex, and 7 bench spots. What I'm going to do today to make it different, I'm going to go with 2 flex spots here in today's video, just to see if that changes anything with the 4 running back strategy early on. But without further ado, I don't know what draft pick I'm going to get. We're just going to go with the flow and see what happens. Let's get into it. Let's see what draft pick we have here in today's video. It's the number 2 pick. This draft couldn't have started off any better. And we're going to go with Christian McCaffrey, right? I wish I had a later pick to more so apply this strategy, but I think this is the perfect spot, actually, to take Christian McCaffrey, as after our selection, we had Austin Eckler, Cooper Kupp, Jamar Chase, Travis Kelce, and in the latter half of the first round, we had Jonathan Taylor, Saquon Barkley, Tyreek Hill, Bijan Robinson, Stephon Diggs, and Nick Chubb to close out the first round. To the second round, we had CeeDee Lamb, A.J. Brown, Devontae Adams, Josh Jacobs, back-to-back Raiders. Pat Mahomes goes early in the second round. First quarterback off the board, which is interesting. Derrick Henry follows that with Garrett Wilson, Josh Allen, Jalen Waddle, and Breece Hall. And we're back on the clock here, and I see everything that I could have asked for here with the robust running back strategy. Now again, if this is my actual drafts, I'm most likely looking at the boards, and I'm saying, I know Jalen Hurts is here. Why not? Let's go out there and grab Jalen Hurts and then Mark Andrews, or Jalen Hurts and then Devontae Smith to get one of the best stacks possible. But we're going to stick true to the strategy. Or Amon-Ra. Amon-Ra is here, and he's my top 8, or he's my 8th wide receiver on the year. But we're going to go with Tony Pollard. Let's look at the other running backs, make sure there's no one else here. But Tony Pollard is a top 4 running back in my opinion. So as of right now, as my draft has gone, we have my number 1 running back and my number 4 running back. And what we're going to do, we're going to pair that with my number 7 running back on the season. My favorite draft pick this year in the 3rd round, Mr. Ramondre Stevenson. But after the Tony Pollard selection, it was the Sun God and Devontae Smith. And after our Rhamondre selection, it was Mark Andrews, Joe Burrow, T. Higgins, Chris Olave, Najee Harris, Jahmyr Gibbs, Travis Etienne, Deebo Samuel, Keenan Allen, and Jalen Hurts falls all the way to the end of the third round, which you never see. So amazing value there at the end of the third round for Team 12. And to open up the fourth round, we had Aaron Jones, DK Metcalf, Joe Mixon, Ken Walker, Calvin Ridley, Lamar, Amari Cooper, TJ Hockenson, Miles Sanders, and J.K. Dobbins is going here in the fourth round. That's how you know that these draft boards are a little bit, I'm kind of messing with the league mates here. But as we're here in the fourth round, I have 3 top 7 running backs. My team couldn't have started off any better with this strategy. And honestly, I kind of hated on the strategy earlier. But to be honest, if this is how my draft starts, I am not complaining with 3 top 7 running backs. But let's go over here, click on the roster so you guys can just take a quick look at the team as it is filling out. But running backs here, if we have to go running backs, I do see my top rated running back left is Alexander Mattison. And I am not going to be mad if that is the selection here. Let me make sure no one else is down the boards, as sometimes Sleeper tends to be a little bit behind on things. Regardless, I think Alexander Mattison is the selection. Now, I will say that I failed to mention this earlier, but in the weird cases, if a Jalen Hurts did fall to the fourth round, or a Pat Mahomes did fall to the fourth round, I think it gets to that point where you want to stick true to the strategy, but you also don't want to be an idiot, right? Go out there and take the values if it is too much for that position in the draft. As if a guy falls way past where he's supposed to go, don't be an idiot, right? Take the value, right? And then come back to your strategy, which is, in this case, running backs. But again, I'm going to go with Alexander Mattison. You see it on my screen. I have 3 top 7 running backs in Christian McCaffrey, Tony Pollard, and Rhamondre Stevenson. And then we have 4 top 20 running backs for me, with Alexander being my 20th running back on the season. And I couldn't be happier with the start of this draft. But I think we're quite literally set. If those are my 4 running backs going into next year, I am okay with how my roster is going to turn out. But I do see Justin Herbert on the board. And with how this roster is constructed, I wouldn't be mad at trying to go for a possible stack. We know Keenan's off the board, but maybe, just maybe, we can go with a Justin Herbert here and follow that up with a Mike Williams or a Quentin Johnson later on in the drafts. That is my basic thinking as of now. I do see George Kittle, right? But the upside there is just not worth it for a 5th round pick in my personal preference. DeAndre Hopkins, I'm not the biggest fan. I think he's a top 30 receiver after the move to Tennessee, but I'm not the biggest fan of his situation right now, especially when it comes to fantasy football playoffs, as we can expect Will Levis to get some run there. Damian Pierce, But I am going to go Justin Herbert. I'm going to go Justin Herbert. To me, a top 5 quarterback on the year. A lot of expectations for him this season. As with Kellen Moore coming in as the new offensive coordinator, I've preached it this offseason, he has the potential to throw for 5,000 yards. Kellen Moore had Dak Prescott in a pass-happy scheme the last couple of years in Dallas, and Kellen Moore is going to an offense with Justin Herbert that has more talent than Dallas's did, especially at the wide receiver position. CeeDee Lamb is great. He might be the best of the bunch out of those 2 teams, but the overall group with Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Quentin Johnson, Austin Eckler out the backfield. Gerald Everett is a respectable tight end. You have a lot of options here in LA, and we've been waiting for that MVP level season from Herbert. This might be the year for Justin Herbert. But now we have to hammer out the wide receivers, sticking true to the strategy again. And our receivers aren't looking the absolute greatest. But I want to see Mike Williams did go. So our pipe dream there of starting off with a Los Angeles stack is kind of dwindling down here, as now we're going to have to go for a Quentin Johnson later on in the drafts. But we do see Michael Pittman. Michael Pittman at the end of the 6th round in a 12-team league is pretty good value for Michael Pittman. He's probably the 25th or so wide receiver off the board, and in a team, in an offense in Indianapolis, if I can talk. Indianapolis projects to be down a lot this season, and they're going to have to pass the ball a lot late in games. So Michael Pittman has potential, but I would rather go with with Josh Downs later in the draft, as I think he'll have a better season statistically than Michael Pittman. But I do see a wide receiver here that I do particularly like in Tyler Lockett. And just to be clear, are we on the turn? We are. So here is the basic strategy. I want to go with Tyler Lockett, and I want to come back around with Jordan Addison. Jordan Addison, you guys all know, I think he's going to be the Offensive Rookie of the Year. I think he's walking into an offense with 163 open targets. But let's focus on Lockett for now. I think we're going to lock up Tyler Lockett, no pun intended, and we're going to get our guys. So Mike Evans is on the board, and I think he is being disrespected this offseason. But for my personal liking, I'd rather trust Kirk Cousins over Kyle Trask or Baker Mayfield. Go Gators for Trask, but I'd rather trust the proven veteran in Kirk Cousins that needs a number 2 wide receiver. And to me, that is Jordan Addison, a guy that recently was in the news for some stuff, but he has cleaned it up. And I just now realized we have 2 Vikings on the roster. It does not matter to me, right? In a league like this where we kind of just need best player available at the wide receiver position, I am okay with taking two players on one of the maybe best offenses here in the NFL in the Minnesota Vikings. But Jordan Addison, again, he's walking into an offense with Adam Thielen and Dalvin Cook gone. That opens up 163 targets. He, to me, in my opinion, is walking into a season where he can legitimately have close to 100 receptions and 1,000 yards as a rookie. And we don't see that often. But when we do, those players turn out to be something special. Jordan Addison was my favorite player out of the draft class at his position. And I think he's going to a team that is going to suit his career. It's going to set his career up for the long haul. But we're back here in round 8. And this is still, according to the strategy, when we should be targeting wide receivers. And I'm not mad at that. Right now, we don't have a lot of stability at the position. I mean, we have Lockett. It's up in the air what's going to happen with Jordan Addison. But I do see Quentin Johnson here, and that is going to be the pick. I'm not going to play around. I just want to grab our guy, as we're going to now have a stack with Justin Herbert and Quentin Johnston, And I'll say this, I'm not the biggest fan of Quentin Johnston out of TCU, but he has the potential. And he's a big body receiver in an offense that doesn't have the most durable wide receivers. So I think he is set up for a big year there in LA. And now we have a stack, one of the best stacks there in LA, in an offense that should pass the ball a lot. But here we are in the 9th round. And I know that the strategy technically says to go with wide receivers at this point and then target tight ends later, right? One more round later, which would be round 10. I'm going to break the rules a little bit here, as we do see Michael Thomas, Juju Smith, Zay Flowers is actually, if I had to go wide receiver here, it would be Zay Flowers. He is, according to all reports, going to be the number 1 there in Baltimore. And you know what? I'm going to talk myself into it, as we do see a couple other respectable tight ends here, especially Chigoziem Okonkwo, which I would really like on my team. But we'll go with Zay Flowers, right? Another rookie. So we are banking our season this year on some young guns at the wide receiver position, aside from Tyler Lockett. But we have maybe the 3 most talented wide receivers out of this last draft class on our team. Zay Flowers, per all reports, has looked like the best receiver far and away in Baltimore camp. And he's looked better than Odell Beckham, who has been there, which he's a veteran, maybe a Hall of Famer in some eyes. Regardless, we're back here on the clock at number 10, and this is where we continue to attack receivers and or tight ends. And to me, it looks like my highest rated tight end remaining is going to be Greg Dulcich. My guy, I think he's 13th or 14th on my rankings, right next to Tyler Higbee. So I wouldn't mind either or here. We know Cole Kmet just signed an extension, so shout out to him. That's generational money there, so shout out to Cole Kmet. But we're on the clock here, and I think Greg Dulcich is the selection. Last year I had him when he kind of burst onto the scene out of nowhere. And, he was a pivotal part to my team in one league that my team was struggling. But he's in an offense now with Russell Wilson. And I think with Sean Payton in town now, after taking a year or 2 off of the game, I think this Denver offense is going to be better this year. And I think, it's hard to be worse than last year. Is a good way to put it, but I think it's going to be explosive this year. I think it's going to be a top 10 offense, and I think Sean Payton can get Russ on the right track. Now, as far as team success, that's a different video, But I think as far as overall improvement with the team, I think the offense gets a lot better, and I think Russ looks a lot better. And a big beneficiary of that can be Greg Dulcich. But we're back on the clock here, and let's just take a quick overall preview of the board. As, again, I kind of stopped reading the board after the 4th or 5th round like I typically do. But if you want to just take a look at the board here for a couple seconds, see which team went where, some different strategies they went, how it played out. That's something I always like to do with these computer teams because it could replicate a real-life draft for all we know. But a couple rounds left here, and it's really time to just hammer the wide receivers, hammer the tight ends to get some more stability there yet again because I've been searching for it. But we're here with some wide receivers, and if you're talking about stability, you have to mention a guy like Tyler Boyd. Jameson Williams is a flyer that we can take a chance on as he has the potential to be something special there after his suspension in Detroit. Allen Lazard, we know he has chemistry there with Rodgers, but I really think that's going to be Garrett Wilson's offense. No surprise there, right? I do want to go with Josh Downs with the last pick of our drafts, so we're going to keep that in mind. We're not going to go with a backup quarterback here, simply because it's not our real-life drafts, so I'm not going to get a backup quarterback until the last couple rounds with my kickers and defenses, whatever else is in the league. But let's look over here. Jameson Williams, in my opinion, might be the pick here. We know Cole Kmet's here. Again, he just got some money, but I'm not going to go tight ends in really back-to-back rounds. So let's go with Jameson Williams. Why not, right? We can start either Quentin Johnson, Zay Flowers, or Jordan Addison. We just have to hope that one of those three guys can be a decent receiver this year, a formidable wide receiver this year. And if that is the case, Jameson Williams can sit on the bench for 6 weeks. When he comes back, we know he's going to need probably an additional 2 or 3 games to get his game shape where it needs to be. But if that is the case, if we want to take a flyer on this and have him sit for 10 weeks, practically, maybe he can come around playoff time. Around playoff time, maybe he could burst onto the scene and put our team over the top. That has happened before with a different Detroit receiver in Amon-Ra St. Brown. So maybe Jameson Williams can right that ship yet again. But we're back here in the 12th round. Couple rounds left here. 3 picks left. And we do see Darnell Mooney. But I think at this point, we're going to have to start taking either some stability shots, or we're going to have to go with just even more upside and bank that one of these 5 or 6 young guys can take that next step. But I do see a guy like John Mechie, who he's looked great in camp per all reports. So shout out to John Mechie after his off-the-field stuff last year. Rashee Rice is an interesting pick, but I know Andy Reid doesn't typically use those younger wide receivers. So what we're going to do here, we're going to double down on the Los Angeles Chargers stacks, and we're going to go with Gerald Everett, a guy who is my 16th tight end on the year. Tyler Higbee is higher, yes, but Gerald Everett is going to give us a little bit more upside here with the pick, as if Greg Dulcich goes down with another injury, or if the LA offense is just that dominant, I want to have as many pieces of that offense in my lineup on a week-to-week basis. And Gerald Everett, to me, is a pretty good way to go about that. So now we have 2 guys with Justin Herbert in an offense with Kellen Moore that should explode this year. So I think 2 or 3 pieces should be good enough to, I guess, have a part in this offense is my basic point. But moving over here to number 13, or 13th pick, rather, Darnell Mooney is on the board, and I think that is the selection here. We're not going to overthink it. Darnell Mooney has the potential to be the number 1 in this offense, even with the DJ Moore addition to the team, as DJ Moore is going to take away a lot of attention. So stats-wise, statistically speaking, and I think Darnell Mooney can really explode this year out of the slot. And he's next to Chase Claypool. And, so I don't have to worry about Chase Claypool. But if DJ Moore comes to this team and he gets double-teamed all the time, why not go out there and take a shot on a guy like Darnell Mooney? Money with 2 O's to go out there and really be a stable option in this offense. But moving over to our last pick, and I cannot believe I forgot about this guy. As we do see Alec Pierce, we see Wan'Dale, we see DPJ. As a Browns fan, I'd love to be biased and just take DPJ and Njoku, all the Browns players, and say we're going to be the best in the league. But that's another rule I can throw out there at the end of the draft. don't ever draft Browns players, right? Nick Chubb seems to be the exception to the rule, but if you want happiness with your team on a week-to-week basis, don't draft Browns players, right? You never bet on anything in the Browns organization, and that's coming from a fan. But we're going to go with KJ Osborn. Let's say that Jordan Addison doesn't turn out to be what I think he can be, or what the Vikings think he can be in year one. Or simply, he's a rookie, he's young, he needs time to get his feet under him as far as the league and just get going. And in that case, I think KJ Osborn, a guy that has a lot of continuity with Kirk Cousins and his coaching staff, he could really be the real number 2 in this offense and take all of those targets from Jordan Addison. So that's something to look out for. And again, let's run through the lineup. We started this draft with Christian McCaffrey, my number 1 overall rated running back. Some would say he should be the number 1 overall pick, but I think he should be in the top 3, no doubt. And personally, if you're asking me, if I had to start a draft, I think my top 3 picks in any league is going to be Justin Jefferson, Cooper Kupp, and Christian McCaffrey. I think that's my top 3 selections. Regardless, we get the number 1 overall running back here in a robust running back strategy video. So you can't really go wrong with that. You see Tony Pollard, we got at the end of the second round there, as he's been going higher and higher, so it's a shock that we got him that late. But Tony Pollard, so I have my number 1 running back, my number 4 running back. Then we came back around with my favorite third round selection this year in Ramondre Stevenson. So we have 3 top 7 running backs, and basically 3 guys I view as top 5 running backs. So 3 guys that can legitimately finish as the best running back this year. And then we pair that with Alexander Mattison, a guy who's hungry and a guy who's looking for more touches and opportunity in a Minnesota offense. I think we have 4 number 1 running backs on this team, 4 guys to me that are in my top 20. And for a robust running back strategy video where you want to get all of your star power early at that position, I think we did a pretty good job starting the draft. And then we went with quarterback in Justin Herbert, a top 5 guy to me. We followed that up with Tyler Lockett, Jordan Addison, Quentin Johnson, and Zay Flowers. We have the veteran, the proven stability in Tyler Lockett. But next to him, we have 3 straight rookie wide receivers. So we just need one of those guys to take a step up this year and be actually productive in year one. Greg Dulcich and Gerald Everett at my tight end positions. But then we went on and we finished the draft with a little bit of veteranship in KJ Osborn and Darnell Mooney. But we also took a flyer on Jameson Williams, a guy who's going to miss the first 6 to 10 games this year. And when he comes back, we're just hoping for that playoff juice, right? He's gonna be fresh, and hopefully we can get that extra boost when it comes to the playoff time if we need it with a guy like Jordan Addison. And I think he can really be the real deal this year. I think he's a top 25, top 30 receiver-ish for me. Regardless, that is the draft. Let me know what you guys think down below. What would you have done differently? I'll let you guys look at the draft board here as we close. But that is going to do it for today's video. Another great week in the books. Next week, if you drop a comment, let me know which strategy to do next. Do we double up on quarterbacks? Do we get 1 quarterback, 1 tight end, and that's it for the entire draft? Do we go wide receiver heavy? Let me know a draft strategy or anything down below that you would like me to do here on the channel. And that's going to do it. We'll see you guys next week for another great 4-day stretch of videos. And support the channel if you've made it this far. Without further ado, we're on the road to 500 subs. We'll see you guys next Tuesday. Have a great weekend. Stay happy. Stay healthy. We're out.